Now it's got REC, so hopefully we're recording.
Hi everyone. My teaching as inquiry began earlier this year, and I wanted to focus on my well below writers, of which I had some. But over the course of that first term, my well below and my below writers were taken care of from other resources in the school. So my focus became my ACT group, and my ACT writers were capable writers. So they can write, and they can write to complete, they're at the standard. So my focus became, I talked with my mentor about what to do with those guys, and we thought the best thing to do for that group was or what would be a good thing to do is to somehow encourage them to use all the skills they're aware of, what they know how to do, to write better. So expanding their audience. We did, this is my blog of my teaching as inquiry process. My first entry in September was focusing my inquiry. So I got my baseline data, and then I've got samples of the children. Just called them child 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 and 9 without their names on the blog. Expanding their audience, I chatted with them about what we could do and how we could expand their audience. One we did, read over some data about what was good about that, and for some, or not for unknown reasons, when children have, when it was just me reading their work, they're just writing for me, they might have shared with a buddy or a writing buddy, but that's very just me, my comments, and then you probably write for that audience. I think if you're aware it's only your teacher reading your stuff, you write for that. You do what you can to get the tick on the book. So expanding their audience, we used Senior Mentor, the senior class, as mentors. So we teamed them up on our Ultranet site so that they could post a story on the Ultranet, and the buddy would come on and log and give them feedback. So their success criteria were on there, and then they could comment about how successful they were in attaining that criteria. I set up a blog spot. I'll show you actually while we're here. Gosh, this will take ages. Terrific. Blog spot. Maybe another time. Right, something like that. But I set up a blog for the class. It's got lots on it. We've had 600, 700 views on the blog site.
That's a lot of hits, Carmen.
Yeah, it's a lot of hits, and in fact, what the kids were excited about was, in that which is international, it doesn't tell you where the hits are coming from. So whilst it might be mum, dad at home going on, then logging on, when Nana's over to show Nana what the story was, it could be someone from Portugal, or you know what I mean. You don't know who's reading the work, and they were all published. The children at my age were still quite slow typers, so I typed them up, but I'm quite fast, so that was just the best way for me to do it. So we had a blog spot where they were getting hits. We didn't get any comments, so to do it again into I don't know, maybe you need to put a tagline on the bottom of the stories, please comment, if you've got any, because that would have been really nice. We didn't get any comments. We had 600-700 hits and no comments.
Sometimes, Carmen, if you've got some criteria there for people
to comment upon,
it's not saying lovely story or good work, because they go, I don't know really what to say,
so they don't say anything. So that would be something to consider next time. They wanted a book, and we published and made a book of the Room 2 narratives, and they were narratives once they got that group that I work with my ACT writers. It went through a series, so there was planning, and then your upfront draft, another draft. They had buddy writers within their group, and it had to be a publishable story at the end of it. And then so we've got a book of writers, which wasn't in, I think Blaise got that. And what else? And whenever we could, we took the opportunity to publish in the newsletter as well. So they were the 4 things that the children thought would be good for expanding the audience. The most exciting, I think, was probably the the best to know how they were doing against the criteria was the feedback from their senior mentors, because then they could say, oh, you've really done this very well, but this part of it, you need to rework. And the kids went, oh.
Yeah,
and what I
feedback,
noticed with their
feedback.
writing was that it seemed to most of the children, not all of the children, but it stimulated them to get it done.
Yeah.
You can have an at-ride who's a little reluctant, and will just muck about a bit, but it actually stimulated them to get it done because there was an audience. There was a bigger audience than just me there. So that's strategic inquiry. I had a couple of observations throughout the process as well. And that was good for someone else to step into, to ask the children, what's your reaction to it? How was your response? What did you, what's your motivation? So I've got those recorded on there. My student voice, just transcribed their details. And what I did was I did a summary under each topic. So there were a series of questions, and then underneath those are the things. How has your writing improved since having an alternate buddy, a blog, and being published? Well, my capital letters and full stops. If I've made a mistake, I can cross it out, write it again, I can read it again. My writing buddies encouraged me to include more staff, some writing staff, some writing staff. Great. Anyway, my writing has been better. It makes me get better because I have a person that gives me feedback because they tell me what I need to improve on and stuff. I've been doing more writing, it's getting better, because when I was 6 or 7, I only wrote like one sentence. Really great. When you're writing, what changes have you noticed? I can make my work tidier. I can write longer stories. It's gotten tidier. I know it shouldn't be important to write tidy, but it's good if you're when you need to read it.
Absolutely, Carolyn.
I like by putting in brainy words.
Yeah, putting into brainy words. Yeah. I like to capture that student voice. I wonder if that's the most important voice in the process.
Yeah.
I know it's good for me as a teacher because it's something I wouldn't have thought that was that important in writing. I thought it must be about the process of writing and what you can put in. But the idea for the children of having not me, just me reading, of all the people that could possibly read it, we did videoing. So they wrote a thing, and then we videoed their stories and we put them up on YouTube as well.
Cool.
Which they also, but that was one they really, really liked. But that makes it non-discreet in a way. So, we stopped doing that. But that's something they also really enjoyed as well. Yeah. And then I had my next observation. My post-data, what should be easier to... But this is the post-data, the narratives, the samples. And you can't really see, but if you clicked on them, they'd be enlarged. And you can see from the structure of them and the language that they're using and how they use it, that they're thinking of an audience greater than the classroom.
Yeah.
You can tell that. They're thinking, that could be the Prince of England reading it or something like that. You can tell that that's...
And maybe not just trotting it out.
Because there's no one else to
it's writing
look at
time.
Yeah. So you can see that in the writing, the writing that came through. My goal of my inquiry was to learn whether my writing group's writing would improve by expanding their audience, and it did. It was hard to judge because my initial assessment was based on a moderated writing sample. My end of inquiry assessment was based on one that had gone through the process of draft to get to the point of publishing. And also it was hard to work out, my thought is definitely that expanding their audience made them better writers because of maybe the motivation to reach that other voices. But it was hard to then think, I wonder if it would have got that better had that not happened. I'd like to think not, but I don't know, and I can't tell from my assessment. So that was my reflection, that their writing improved. I think it was because of expanding their audience. But, it would be a hard thing to test whether or not. So I sort of commented on that in there. And then...
And your next step?
My next steps. The next steps I thought would be... quite welcome to check that.
And you could also click on your blog, Carmen, because there's a live link there and you could show it to her.
My poetry blog.
No, no, terrific too, that royalty as well. See, it's there embedded in your, see your reflection and your next steps as you go down. You've got a link in there to your
I'll show
blog.
you the blog.
So
Yeah.
there.
Next steps, incorporating the expansion of organs, both book publications, school systems, motivation and accountability to have an audience bigger than the classroom. So I think now it would just be a matter of it won't be not in my writing program. It will always be in my writing program because it was so beneficial. It will always be there.
Yeah.
And now that I've got the hang of doing the blog and all that, it's an easy thing for me to use. I'll show you the blog.
Love to see it.
So these are some recounts.
They
These
crumbled
were
and
our.
cracked. So
Yeah,
really
we've got
worth
a
having
zillion.
a
There's a zillion
I've been
things on it.
tested.
That's October's, and I think September we had 41 posts in September as well. So it has the title down the side. So if you were, I'll show you the. Where can we go? Yeah, if you click on here, it gives us the
Oh, there's even
views.
chapters in that one, my word.
Yeah, I've got
Some commitment to writing there, isn't it? Cool.
That's gone through. Oh, hold on.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, and it was really, it was rather easy to.
I get so excited for them to go home and be able to share it.
Yeah, and that's
on
not something
the
restricted to the
computer.
school.
Yep.
No.
You know,
No.
you could be wherever visiting Gran in Australia and show her your writing, which is really nifty. We've got loads on there. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, nice.
Carmen, you made the comment that it will change how you do writing. So, obviously what you did has challenged some of the beliefs you had about how writing should happen in a classroom. Would that be fair to say?
Yeah.
Okay.
And that was just, not that it was ignorance, but just because I was thinking, what difference is it going to make if we type it online or we write it in our books? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And but then seeing their, and it was with glee, when you put the blog up and say, look, here's another story, and it's like, oh, I'm on the internet.
Yeah.
There was a little glee, and it was motivation for them, and and now that because if you don't know it, so it can be like a wall or a barrier, and now that I know how to do it and put it in, and then it becomes so much
Becomes
easier.
part of the process.
Yeah, I wouldn't
it,
not
doesn't
do
it?
it now because that was, the rewards were so good.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you, Carmen. Has anybody got any questions for Carmen?
That's
I
awesome.
think it's very
It was
exciting.
nifty. It was nifty. It's a shame about the comments.
I
We
have
haven't
a,
had just 30 views. We've had.
I have a comment to make, Carmen, and that's that audience, even now, with digital technology available, audience is a thing, one of the components of writing that is least addressed by teachers.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think there could be some good direction for us there as a school in terms of expectations about publishing writing online.
Yeah.
For going into the new year, and even buddying across the school.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They enjoyed that. They liked to get the feedback from
Yeah.
the seniors. That I think they would log online in the morning to check their Ultranet to
Yeah.
check what comment they got back. So
Yeah.
it's really nice for them. Yeah.
That's great.
Thank you, Carmen. Thank you.